the James Franklin and the Penn State Caravan. It's already over.
I
remember when these things started, especially when Bill O'Brien was here. It was like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It was just a grind.
Yes.
And you had to go to all of them. For selfish reasons, I'm glad that it was only a 3-stop caravan this year.
Right.
But James did have some interesting things to say, and so did Sandy Barber, Penn State's athletic director. Let's get to what James had to say, specifically about. He mentioned Saquon Barkley and his success. He's number 2 pick with the Giants. He looks like he's got a big future.
Yeah.
James made it a point to say he wants to make sure that the Penn State success stories kind of come back to the program and kind of show, I guess, the current players kind of how things are done, and they're great role models. Can't think of a better role model than Saquon. He also talked about coaching losses, lateral moves, and how Penn State needs to avoid losing coaches to lateral moves. In other words, moves that are, they didn't necessarily improve their standing, but they went someplace else for essentially the same job.
Yeah, no, I think to start with the first thing, I think the whole idea of that is Penn State wants to improve its facilities. This goes back to everything they're doing at Lash, everything they're doing in the locker room, everything they're doing at Beluga Hall. Some of it they've already done, some of it they don't have the money to do. But if you have a place where NFL players want to train in the offseason, not only are they going to mentor your guys, but it's good enough for NFL players, it's probably good for college players. Yeah. So it's kind of a little bit of looking to the future, but also knowing that the better your facilities are, the more high-level prospects and future potential NFL guys you're going to get on your campus. So I think it sort of all folds into one there as Penn State tries to really take a big step forward in its facilities, spending, and I think that the point right now is that, Bob, they have done plenty since James Franklin got here. But I think it's what happened before he got here, the stuff that wasn't necessarily kept up with, that is what needs to be caught up now, if you will. So that's what I think he was going with when he spent so much time talking about facilities. And then you have the elephant in the room of the Caravan, and that was, of course, the Pitt Penn State series talk. And I agree with some opinions out there that we don't need to spend a whole lot of time talking about this. But, Bob, it's on hiatus until 2030, and I don't think they need to be in a huge rush to bring it back.
And this is something I think that Pitt wanted to continue, but I think it's pretty clear that Penn State wasn't all that interested that when the current series is up, which is that they'll have a game at Pittsburgh this year, and I think one more game at Penn State in 2019. That's it. And I think the earliest it could come back, if at all, will be like 2030 or something like that. I think when you look at it from Penn State's point of view, what do they have to gain from playing Pitt? They could probably only lose in the minds of some recruits in state, so they probably said, your program, you're going to do it without our help, so good luck with that.
That's how I look at it too. I don't really see any other way to look at it. I mean, for Penn State, if you beat Pitt, you were supposed to lose to Pitt. It's a jumping off point for their program, and I don't see the value in it. I don't, Sandy Barber talked about, she thinks fans want to see Virginia Tech and West Virginia, and I don't know if it's so much that. I just think that, there's some fans out there that want to see this game, this series continue, but for Penn State's current outlook, I just don't think it makes a lot of sense.
Now, real quick, a couple years ago, Penn State rolled out this facilities master plan. And fundraising was a big part of
and it seems
the key to kind of, upgrading facilities, not only for Penn State football, but other minor sports as well. Very ambitious plan. Fundraising was a huge key, I think, to the completion of that plan. And I think we're learning that, to hear, I guess, Sandy Barber talk, are they really on target to kind of get this done the way they want to get it?
It really doesn't feel like it. I think that there's a lot of things at play here. Number one, it's not, they have a lot that they want to do. And I don't know how big the donor base is. I'm sure it's big, but there's a lot of big dollar figures. And the other thing too is that with the new tax laws, the colleges have talked about this, that the way that they're written now, it makes it a little bit harder to do write-offs and things like that with donations. So I think that's probably part of it too. It's probably a little bit of a timing issue for Penn State, but they need to figure it out if they want to keep moving these things forward.
And what did James Franklin mean in your mind when he talked about, we don't want to lose any more coaches to lateral moves anymore? What I thought there was a couple things he kind of was hinting at when he said that. What was your read on what his take there?
Yeah, I think that, obviously Josh Gaddis got a raise by going to Alabama. And look, it's Alabama. I mean, you can't really fault anybody for leaving there, even if it is a lateral move.
I don't think it's a lateral move. I
don't either. Yeah. No, I agree with you. But, I think that, he makes a fair point that Penn State has a ways to go, and probably that area as well when it comes to assistant coach salary pool. there's a lot of things they need to accomplish, and I just think that he's putting it out there that we don't want to lose these guys. But at the end of the day, it comes down to money. And, you know, if your donors aren't, you know, maybe hitting the benchmarks that you have set in your budget, then it becomes a little bit tough. So that's what kind of my takeaways were from that.
Do you think he was also kind of setting the stage for next year if they have a successful year, and a guy like Brent Pry, who has, I think, flirted with leaving the program to be a head coach, and Sean Spencer, hey, here's a heads up, no more lateral moves. We have some good coaches. There's a reason why we've won 22 games the last 2 years. I mean, every year people are probably going to come looking at our coaches.
Right.
We might want to keep an eye on this. Do you think it was also about a look to the future?
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, you have a lot of guys on the staff now that will either have received opportunities to move on or will receive them. And, I mean, just you got to keep in mind at every turn, too, that if Joe Moorhead loses a coach down there, there's who's to say he won't come calling? He might not get an answer that he wants, but that's always going to be in play now.
Yeah, and Joe Moorhead has Charles Huff on the staff, and I think Naeem Wortman, a former Penn State linebacker, career cut short due to injuries, is, I think, a grad assistant for Joe.
And they took the recruiting coordinator as well.
Okay. Third down here.